All right, hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to create our shadow box with the Quilled paper roses. I'm going to start with the back piece of the frame. You can see this is the part that just goes in the back. It does come with a little bit of a print on it. You can leave it as is. You can put a piece of paper over it, or you can paint it, whichever you would like to do. You're not going to see much of it anyway. As you can see in the one that I've already made, there isn't much background showing and it's not the focus anyway. So if you decided to leave it, you won't be able to see much at all. Here I'm going to be using a piece of a bamboo skewer that I cut in half and cut the ends off. And I cut a slit in each end, as you can see here, to use as our paper quilling tool. If you have any pointed tip tweezers like this, these also work as well. Or you can use, I wouldn't recommend using something as big of as a pencil for this, but if you have like a rat tail comb that's skinny on the end, or you could probably use a pair of needle nose pliers also. It's not going to be as tight of a roll, but that would still work. So I'm going to show you how to do this using a pink flower. We have our flowers that are rolled like this, or cut like this, I should say. And the inside here is going to be the bottom of the flower. So you start on the outside. I use the petal side, the rounded side, to put into the tool so that I can use my pointer finger to guide the smooth side to make sure the flat part stays together. Because if you don't guide it as you go, you will end up with your flower rolling all the way down the stick, and it's a lot more difficult to remove that way. So as you can see here, I started by inserting the end of the flower into the bamboo skewer, and it's held in place there. You can see it. And I'm going to use my pointer finger and hold on to the end of the paper, and I'm gently going to roll towards me. Now, some people prefer to roll away from them. This part is a matter of personal preference. There is not really a right or wrong way to roll it up. You just want to make sure that you go pretty slow and steady, and make sure that you're using a decent amount of pressure on the end of the paper just to hold it in place so that it doesn't roll all the way down the stick on you, because that's so much more difficult to remove. And this saves you a step at the end also when completing the rest of the flower by holding it in place at the bottom so it all stays flush together. So I'm just going to continue to roll it, using my middle finger as a guide on the back side to kind of hold it in place, as I use my pointer finger at the bottom to keep it lined up. And I just continue to roll with my right hand because I'm right-handed. I have heard that left-handed people find it easier to roll it away from you instead of rolling it towards you. Again, totally up to you, a matter of personal preference. So when we start getting towards the center here, it gets a little bit tighter, and we have a little bit of, it's pretty thick here at the bottom. So I switched to using my thumb to guide it the rest of the way, and I use my pointer finger then on the outside to help the roll stay together. And then when we end, we have a little piece hanging off at the end. Totally fine. That's what we want it to do. So I'm going to keep my pointer finger at the bottom, and I'm going to use my right hand and wiggle back and forth a little bit and use my thumb to hold the flower together as I'm twisting the stick to be able to remove that center piece of the flower from the stick without it being torn inside. If it does happen and it tears, it's not that big of a deal, because as you can see in here, there is a little piece there that kind of rolls up in the center. but you're not really going to notice much if it does accidentally rip off. Now, I'm holding this flower together with my thumb and my pointer finger. You can see here that our bottom is pretty flush. We have a nice roll down there. Now, this is the part where a lot of people get confused, because usually you would think that if you let something unroll, it's a bad thing, right? Well, not in this case. We're going to, as a friend called it, let it live. So basically what you want to do is keep your pointer finger on the bottom of the flower so it doesn't come completely unrolled, and let it open up and do its own thing. And once it does that, you can see that we already have a very nice shape of a rolled rose. Now, we want to flip it over and take this bottom flap, and we're going to cover that bottom flap in hot glue. And we want to make sure we cover most of it, because we want it to be able to adhere all the layers of the inside parts of the flower to this bottom flap, because that is what holds it together. So I fold mine back a little bit. I keep this last little bit of petal here also, and I also put glue on that because that goes on the side, so that really holds the sides together well. And then I glue the bottom flap to the bottom and make sure that it's all held together. So I'm going to do that now. You just want to be careful with the hot glue, because obviously it is hot and your fingers are pretty close. So I put the hot glue. Now I glue the side and I push down the bottom, making sure that it got as many layers as possible. These outside layers aren't going to be as important to be glued to the bottom, because they're pretty much stuck in place from that glue that we put on the outside flap. Now, as you can see here, we have our flower glued together, and you can see right through the bottom that our little tab on the bottom is glued, and we do have a flower shape. Now, this part isn't absolutely necessary, but it does help. It gives it a very realistic look. So I'm going to take my fingers and just slightly pinch and pull out on the petals. And this makes these flowers look so dimensional and realistic, and really gives them that rose life that makes them just so beautiful. And when you do this part, it is impossible for people to believe that, wow, that's really paper. I can't believe you made that out of paper. I'm going to use tweezers on this part just because my fingers are fat. And so I'm just going to pinch and kind of turn them out. That's all I'm doing here, is pinching them and turning them out. You can use your fingers. You can use on bigger flowers. A pencil works well. Here, if you have a regular pair of tweezers, that's great. If you have a pair of pliers that aren't real greasy and used for tools much, those will work also. And the inside petals just need a little bit turned out also. Going to be a little bit more difficult to do in there just because it's rolled, much tighter than the outside layers. But look how much life it gave that rose. It really makes it look beautiful and realistic when you turn out those petals slightly. And then we're simply going to glue them on to our backing of our frame. I already have one rose here, as you can see. You can see the difference here really well. I did not turn out the petals on the gray rose. And look how much realistic the pink one looks. So I am going to do that now, just to give it a little bit more life before I glue this pink one next to it. And as you can see, I did not glue this one properly. I did not glue the bottom. I didn't put as much glue as I needed. And these pieces are lifting a bit. If you have that, not a problem at all. Pull it up just slightly to expose the bottom. I'm going to put another couple dots of hot glue down there, a little line. And then I'm going to glue those down. You're never going to see it, but it will definitely help hold the rest of that flower in place. All right, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to put some hot glue on the bottom of this pink rose. I use a generous amount. Better to be safe than sorry with hot glue, as I always say. And I'm just going to stick it right next to the gray one. Now with these frames, because these flowers have to fit inside these shadow boxes, you do not want much flower to be hanging over the edges of this backing, because it does make it very, very difficult to squeeze this back into that frame. All right, so now we have our two flowers, and we'll move on to the next step, and I'll show you how to apply the vinyl to the outside piece of glass. Generally, you will want to clean your piece of glass before you try to apply any vinyl to it. This helps give it it helps clean it, and it gives you better adhesion, and it also helps remove or avoid any air bubbles that might occur. Let me just get a piece of paper towel here. Yes, when using the alcohol to clean the glass before you apply vinyl, it definitely helps cut back on the number of air bubbles. That gives you better adhesion and helps you really get the permanency of the vinyl adhesion to the glass. I'm just going to give that a real quick wipe down. Let that dry for a moment. All right, you can see that I cleaned off my glass. And I'm just going to apply two little stars to the glass so you can get the idea of how to transfer these. Bear with me for 1 second here. All right, as you can see here, I'm going to be applying these two silver holographic stars onto the front of the glass. That goes on the front, not on the inside. I have a piece of transfer tape here. I'm just using a piece of Cover Magic Cover. It's basically just contact paper from the Dollar Tree. You can get it at Walmart. I've seen it at Target. And stuff from the Dollar Tree works great for me. So I'm going to remove this piece from the backing and reveal the sticky side. Now that sticky side, the part that things stick to, you're going to put right on top of your vinyl that you're going to be transferring. All right. And the next step is you want to just make sure it's smoothed down really, really well. And I'm just going to use my fingers here because I don't have a large image. But if you're doing words or a larger image, you're going to want to make sure that you scrape it. And by scrape it, I mean putting it down on the desk, which you won't be able to see if I do that right now. And you literally just push really firmly to make sure that all the vinyl adheres to the transfer tape. But again, I'm just doing these two little stars, so I don't need to do that. So I'm going to, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to hold my sticky contact paper in my right hand, and I'm going to hold that firm, and I'm going to remove the backing. By doing it this way, this ensures that the vinyl stays adhered to the contact paper, which is what we want, or the transfer tape. And you slowly peel back the backing off of the vinyl. Again, you want to make sure that the vinyl stays stuck to the contact paper. And then this white piece will just be for the garbage. Now you can see that I have my 2 stars stuck to my contact paper. And you take your piece of glass, keeping your fingers off of the front of it as much as you can because you cleaned it with alcohol already. And I'm going to put those right where I want them. I'm just going to put them in the center for all intents and purposes. And I'm going to smooth down the stars. Now you can see around the edges here where I already smoothed down that there are no air bubbles or anything. You can see that I've already pushed it down. With the bigger images, you won't be able to achieve this with just your fingers. You will need something to scrape. I'm using my Cricut scraper here that I love. You can also use a store loyalty card. I don't recommend using a debit card or a credit card, although they would work, but you're not going to be very happy about it if you mess those up and can't use them anymore. So I'm simply going to apply some pressure, not a whole lot because we don't want the glass to break, but enough to make sure we have a solid adhesion there on the vinyl especially. And you can see really well the way I'm holding it here, the parts that I have gone over that are nicely adhered to the glass. Just go around this little star one more time. Sorry about that scraping noise. Sometimes it sounds like a panting dog. All right, so you can see here that I have scraped and adhered my stars to my glass. Now I'm going to start at the corner. I didn't go all the way out to the edges because that makes it difficult to be able to peel up the contact paper. This contact paper does not stay on the glass. We're just using this to transfer our image easily and efficiently. So I'm going to peel back very slowly. I stuck my pointer finger on the corner and I have my finger flat on this glass, and I'm going to simply peel it back, making sure that everything stays stuck onto the glass. Now, I don't have this issue right now, but a lot of you might run into it. If you get to a point where it looks like the vinyl is starting to stay stuck to the transfer tape, you can easily just take your scraper or whatever you were using and go back over it again on top of the contact paper and smooth it down again onto the glass. And you can do that as many times as you need to be able to adhere this vinyl to the glass properly without any bubbles or flaws or mess ups or anything like that. So again, I have my finger on the glass. I'm simply going to just peel it back very slowly. This is giving it a nice angle. It helps the vinyl stay adhered to the glass nicely. All right, and we've officially passed the edge of our vinyl, so we know that that's adhered. So we can just go ahead and remove the rest of the contact paper. Now, this contact paper can be used a couple times. So if you're doing a project with multiple layers, or you're doing a different sections, absolutely hold on to it and use it a couple times. Get your money's worth. All right, so you can see that we have our stars nicely adhered to the glass. I see a little spot here on the end that doesn't look like it's stuck down as well, so I'm just going to try to go over that a little bit, not much pressure at all. We don't want to scrape up the vinyl because that will be visible. But I have a couple little bubbles down there I'm just going to smooth out, and it looks like we got it, and it adhered really well. So now all you want to do is you will, once you take your frame, and the glass goes in first. So I'm going to put my glass in from the back and hold that in place. And then I will take my flowers, and it's a lot easier to go in at an angle to make sure that we squeeze in all those corners and edges of the flowers into the frame. And there's a little lip at the bottom of the frame. So we're just gonna make sure that we lift that up over it. If I can get it. I'll show you what I'm doing from the back here. All right, and now we have it in, and you can see that our flowers are inside of our shadow box. And obviously I didn't finish completing my flowers, but once you have all your flowers in there and your vinyl on the glass, you will see that you have a beautiful shadow box with paper flowers. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And thank you for watching.